friends, my name is Lynette. I'm a wife and mom, I'm a fiber artist, a business owner, a nature worshiper, and a brand new homesteader. Welcome to my homestead. Homesteading has been something that I've wanted to do for over 25 years now, maybe longer, really. Ever since my kids were little, and I really wanted to give them the best of everything. It's the kind of lifestyle that I wanted to raise them in, and it just made sense to me that growing our own food was the best way to do that. And also I felt like it was really the more affordable way to do that, because when we were young we didn't have any money, and that's all well and good, except that my husband did not agree. He didn't want anything to do with farming at all. You know, he's a tech kind of guy, a computer kind of guy, and that's what he went to school for. He came out with engineering and math degrees, and that's the kind of thing that he wanted to do. He grew up wanting to be able to make enough money that he didn't have to do the hard labor type of work.
If I ask you, don't hold back on me. Only better if you set it free. In a new light, we can see everything clear. Are we really happy here? There's a shadow.
We know from the plaque on the outside of the barn that it was built in 1997, and this barn was built for horses. There are 3 large stalls on the ground floor here, and this large main aisleway. All the stalls open onto the aisleway, and they all each have a Dutch door that opens outside to the pasture. In addition, there's actually a stairway at the front end of the barn that goes upstairs, and this entire length of the barn is a hayloft. It's a full length, full width loft. There's old straw still up there that needs to come down. There's a couple of trap doors that for throwing hay or straw down through. So it's unlikely that we'll probably ever have horses, but this barn is pretty sturdy. It's got really good bones, built really well, and it's not super old. It does need some repairs. Really, our longer term philosophy here is we want to be more self-sufficient, we want to be more sustainable. I really like the ideas of permaculture design in farming. I just really like that whole encompassing idea of this is a complete system that feeds itself, and in the process, you know, we can improve the land and make it even better with just a little bit of stewardship. So that's the ultimate goal. But we're beginners here. We've never had livestock, and it's a whole new world. We have recently got chickens. That was our first foray, and I'm just kind of amazed actually at how much I love having them. This is Angel. She is my biggest one. She has the reddest combs and wattles, and she has these beautiful angel wings. She's a color pack, and she's so pretty. Say hi, Angel. Say hello. Little pretty angel girl. Little pretty angel girl. What are you looking at? Bark, bark. I really enjoy taking care of them, and it's just step one into this whole inclusive world that will get us closer to providing more of our own food needs. Now that we are building a coop for the chickens and we've had them for a little while and we're getting settled in with them, the next animal we want to bring onto the farm is some sort of a dairy animal. So that's what we're preparing the barn for now. So with him working full-time outside the house, and we were raising 4 small children that we homeschooled, which was primarily my responsibility, I didn't feel at that time that I could just run a farm by myself with just occasional help on, nights and weekends. And, it was a very different time. There wasn't YouTube, and blogs weren't even really a thing. There was some internet, but there wasn't a lot of information or support out there. You couldn't really find the homesteading community online the way that you can now and gather all the information you need. I wish I had known then the things that I know now. I feel like I should have just started way back then, because it's totally a doable thing. You just have to scale it.
I saw a glimpse of coloring. It knocked me off my feet. I thought I saw a spark in your eyes, desperately and far away, conquered all my needs, and I poured all the ways.
Currently, my fiber arts business is I am an indie dyer, and right now I bring in factory processed spinning wools and yarns for knitting from wholesalers, and I dye those and sell them at festivals and in yarn shops and such. And what I'd really like to do is to bring my business more onto the farm and of the farm. First of all, for my own benefit, I really want to have fiber animals here just for my own hobby. And then as a business, rather than trying to produce enough fiber to make yarn or spinning fiber and dye it to sell, I'd rather like to shift the business a bit so that we can include some kind of agritourism. Now that we have the land here, it's possible to do tours in the woods and collect dye stuffs from there. I would like to have some dye gardens. We can also teach about how to raise fiber animals or how to process raw fiber if you have the opportunity to purchase it that way, and those kinds of things. We have enough space here to host small classes that way, and even to host maybe a small festival. So over the years we have moved around and lived in many places all over the country for my husband's job, and I never could quite get started with a full-on farm. I had a couple of gardens, small ones, and some mostly container gardens, and I usually had some pots of herbs at least, a couple of tomatoes and peppers, but it feels like that was a lifetime ago, and most of that was on the complete opposite coast from where we are now. So here we are in our late 40s, starting a homestead from scratch with basically no experience, very little experience in gardening, and no experience at all with livestock.
How come the stars come to shine when it's dark from so far away? Show us where we are. What makes the sun go to sleep every night, and what's it dreaming of? I wonder.
this greenhouse is one of my very favorite places to be. It's just pleasant in here when you have seeds started and there's things growing all around. And in the springtime it's a little warmer in here than it is outside, but you still feel kind of like you're outside, not really in the house, and it just gives you that connection to nature when, you know, most of the world is still a little bit dormant from winter. It might even still be winter. And I think we just all need to have that connection, that reminder that things grow, and this cycle that happens every year, every month, every week, every day. It happens over and over and over again. It's very dependable. It doesn't matter what is happening, what else is happening in the whole world, the sun still comes up tomorrow.
The sky sometimes hides behind the clouds. Maybe it's just like me, a little bit scared of heights. Why does the rain always keep on pouring down when it's gray outside? It really makes me wonder. Yeah, it makes me wonder. It really makes me wonder.
I'm investigating the whole idea of permaculture design on farm and being able to have that holistic, kind of cyclical method of farming, raising our own food and improving the land while we're doing it. And it should, you know, have exponential returns, positive returns. So it just really fits in with my whole spirituality and ideas of that, where I feel like everything in nature is connected. Everything has an energy, and every natural thing has a portion of that energy goes to a greater whole, sort of like a collective conscious, and is a portion of the divine. And the divine is in all of us and in every natural thing. And you really see it in permaculture farming, and you see it in the cycles of, you know, birth and growth and fertility and death, and it happens over and over and over again.
Ooh, I wonder. How come the trees gets undressed when it's cold? And don't they miss the leaves they left behind? Could it be to make the ground shine like gold until winter comes? Until winter comes, until winter comes. It really makes me wonder. Yeah, it makes me wonder. It really makes me wonder. Oh, I wonder.
I've never had a greenhouse before, so this has been an adventure this year to learn how to use it and how it works in my zone here in the Pacific Northwest, where we have pretty mild temperatures all year round, but it is still a little too cold in the winter to grow without some sort of protection. But at the same time, we don't get a lot of bright sun in the winter. Most of the time it's overcast, and we do get rain most days through most of the year until summertime. And then once summer hits, it's very dry for, probably about mid-June till the end of September, sometimes a little longer, where we get very little rain at all. And still fairly mild temperatures compared to a lot of places. We get heat waves every once in a while, but most of the time it stays under like 82. It's a very different climate than the last time that I had any kind of garden or did any container gardening or anything. We've lived in a lot of places, so, you know, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Indiana, all very different from the Pacific Northwest climate. And you know, we're not spring chickens anymore. Everything's a little bit harder. I have some physical limitations I have to work around. But the good thing is that over the years, more and more, my husband has come to value the idea of being a little more sustainable, a little more self-reliant and not dependent on, you know, the modern day world for all of our needs. Even though, you know, we still live in modern times, and we're still going to have computers in the house. His job, he works from home now, and he needs to be able to connect on the computer, and he loves his job. He's not going to give that up, but he is invested now in the success of getting Homestead going. He fully understands the benefit of being able to raise our own food and not having to depend on, you know, a modern world that is kind of fragile. I was kind of afraid a little bit to start once I had the buy-in, because I have no idea what I'm doing. I've read a lot. I've watched a lot of YouTube. You know, I've tried a lot of things on really small scale to just dive in and start a large garden and start getting livestock animals, and I have no experience at all. Like, how do I use a barn? How are animals kept? Can I keep them different ones together? You know, and in the garden, like, I can put seeds in dirt, but all of these plants, they have different requirements to grow, and I don't know what they are. So I was hesitant, but at the same time, I felt like this is my chance. I have buy-in, and I can get help a little more easily. And you know, then the pandemic hit, and stay-at-home orders, and there's been food shortages and stuff, and then that really pushed things into gear.
Hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
This is our chicken coop slash garden shed in a very unfinished state. We just got it yesterday to a point where we could actually put the chickens in it. We've been working on this for some time, but we're doing it ourselves on our own time as we have it. So we have built basically an 8x14 shed, and basically using half of it for chickens and half of it for garden shed. It is right next to my garden, which is right there. And I needed a place to keep some of the tools up here because the garden is kind of up at the top of a hill, and I was getting tired of going up and down the hill to the greenhouse to get my tools every time I forgot something. So this will serve us well, and then in the long run, later down the road, probably both halves will be used for some sort of poultry. But right now I have 14 chickens, and they are in one half of the shed. We actually don't even have the run done yet, but I had to get them out of the garage. They're almost full size, and they really needed more space. So we've got them in the coop now, and they're much happier already. We still have things to finish. There's still quite a lot left to be done on the outside of this coop as well. It has pre-primed siding on it right now, but it needs to be painted. It won't be this color. It's not finished. It doesn't have any of its trim or anything. But we did, one of the reasons it's taking us so long to build it is that we're kind of overbuilding it, because I have plans for the future for this shed, and at really any building that we're building or making improvements to. We're trying to think forward as much as we can towards that sustainable design. So one of the things we did on this shed is it has a metal roof, because we want to set up water catchment here. It makes a lot of sense. I can use that water on the garden, which it's right adjacent to. We can use it for the chickens, and it will be quite easy to set up when there's a metal roof. And the other thing is, because this entire shed at some point will probably be used for poultry of some sort, there's enough space around that we can make multiple runs and have multiple kinds of birds divided if we need to. So lots of plans in the works here, and it puts all of chicken manure right near where the compost is, and the water near where the garden is. It's just part of a greater plan. Originally I had like a 3 to 5 year plan of getting the property cleaned up, making sure that all the infrastructure was fully in place before I brought any animals on to the land, and you know, just taking my time to learn things well and not trying to do everything all at once. But my 5-year plan kind of became a 5-month plan. So I'm still kind of spacing some things out, because especially with animals, it's really, really important to me. The whole point in raising animals for food purposes is that you know that what kind of a life you're giving that animal, and that they're going to have the best life possible, and they're not being raised on factory farms.
Side by side and through, no limit to what we can do. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. Oh, you and I, we got it. Oh, we don't need no more. Oh, even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm.
So for being my first real full-size garden, this has been quite an adventure. This space is the sunniest spot on our property. We have 5 acres here that's mostly wooded, so we really had to pick and choose where we could even grow anything, get enough sunlight. We get a tax break to keep the property wooded. We can't really clear cut here, so we had to be selective. And so this spot was open, at least, but it was completely covered in raspberry brambles. If you're not familiar with the Pacific Northwest, they're a serious pest here. They take over everything. So there were also 3 dog kennels here that had been long abandoned and had old dog houses and bowls and stuff, but also they had been stacked full of like firewood and just random garden accoutrement and just kind of trash. So we had to clear all of that fencing and everything out and away, and then we in the process also found like buried in the ground were just pieces of concrete and globs of asphalt and everything. So we dug all that out, and we kind of tilled this area just to level it a bit, but realized that because of things we found in the soil, we didn't want to plant directly in the ground. Also, there's quite a lot of roots here. So we cleared the area and we put down landscape fabric and we built raised beds. We now have 11 raised beds up here, which is, you know, that's a lot. 6 of them we actually had built for us last year, and they've been just kind of waiting around, and the rest we built ourselves this year, and they're all in place now. So we have 2 large raised beds at one end that are 5 foot by 10 foot, and they're meant in the long run to be one for potatoes and one for onions. And I have since discovered that it won't nearly be enough potatoes and onions for what I want to grow, but at least it's a good start. And the rest of our beds are either 3 foot by 8 foot or 4 foot by 8 foot. And that was meant so that I would be able, from any side, to be able to reach into the middle without having to get all the way to the ground or reach too far to take care of plants. It's been quite a grand experiment with vegetables. I originally expected that I would be able to get a garden in last year, and we just couldn't get this space anywhere near ready. There was just so much work to do. But I had bought all my seeds last year. So last year I was thinking that I want to try a lot of different vegetables and also a lot of different varieties of each vegetable. 1, because I don't really know what I'm doing yet. 2, because I want to find out what we like. And 3, because I need to find out what will grow in this climate. Longer term, I definitely want to expand how much growing space we have in this garden. I have some ideas on how to make the raised beds larger, and also we are renovating our backyard and we will be able to fit more raised beds down there. I think if I'm careful to make sure that I'm getting a spring, a summer, and a fall harvest going forward, and I'm very careful about how I plant and maybe do a little bit of intensive planting, that at some point I'll be able to grow to the point where we can actually raise most of the produce we need for a year. That will also depend on how many people are living here. Right now, during this pandemic in 2020, all of our adult children have been recalled home, and so we have my husband and myself and our 4 young adult children and one of their attachments, so we have 7 adults living here, and that's a lot more food than if it's just my husband and I. Ultimately, I'll probably always grow more than what 2 people need because, even without a pandemic in this day and age, kids will come and go as they need to, until they kind of get themselves established. And I just want to make sure we always can help them out if they need it. We have a small orchard already in place on our property. It's on the east side of the house. It gets really good light in the morning and through the day until about mid-afternoon. And it does pretty well. We have 3 different apple trees, 2 different pear trees, 2 different cherry trees, and a peach tree and a plum tree. And we've gotten some fruit off of some of them the first fall when we moved in, and last year as well, and some of them don't do as well. We have not learned yet the proper ways to prune them and care for them, so that's something that we're going to focus on over this next fall and winter to get them in the best shape possible. Adjacent to where our orchard currently is, there is a small amount of space that's between kind of the orchard trees and the house that I think I can fit either 2 or maybe 3 dwarf varieties of trees in, and we will be adding trees probably this fall.
You say take me on a treasure hunt. I long for something new.
This is the building that we call the workshop. It's probably 500 square feet or so. It's pretty big, and it was built originally by previous owners to house their RV. So the doors are quite tall. There's a lot of space in there. It's pretty wide open. Right now it is holding storage for us, but on one side there was already established a small workshop area with a bench with a vise and a saw and stuff. We probably will use a portion of it as a workshop and a portion for storage for some time until we have a better way or a different way to use it. Originally, when we bought the property, I intended to use this building as my dye studio, but after buying the property we discovered that to run water to the studio was going to be a challenge. Or actually, running water to the studio would not be a challenge, but draining it away would be a challenge because it's on the opposite side of an asphalt driveway from where our septic is. So in order to drain it there, we'd have to dig up the driveway and go quite a distance. Or we would have to apply to install a separate septic for it, and it's quite expensive. So we've tabled that idea for the time being at least, and I'm just doing my dyeing in the garage where there's already water and electric. We have minimal electric in this building already, and we are going to improve it a bit, and we're going to do some renovations inside to make it better for storage and a workshop. We've found over this year, because we've been building so much infrastructure, that we really need a workshop, and we've just been kind of setting up canopies and sawhorses wherever we're working to try to get things done, but it makes a mess all over the property, and really it means that all of the materials and tools that we need are not where we need them when we need them. So this is something else that has not risen to the top of the priority list yet, but we're almost 2 years in. It might make it on the next year. Thanks so much for joining me on this tour of our homestead and discussion about how we came to be here at this stage in our life. That's all I've got for you today. Blessed be, friends. We'll see you on the next video.
Heard the fairies when they sing and dance. Oh, I wish it was me every night. When I close my eyes, I see